Thank you. All right. Thank you. Yep. Good evening and welcome to the November 4th meeting of Owen Sound City Council. We've completed our in-camera meeting and now are in our regular meeting of council. We will ask you to join us in a moment of silent reflection, please. Thank you. Are there any additional items? Councillor Adair.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have three. One is in regards to an open house for city properties and buildings. The other is a report on tax increases through the ages. And the other is an update on where we stand with the Georgian Bluffs and Meafrick development proposals continuing to appear on our agenda.
Okay. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, if I could just talk about the Owen Sound Cultural Awards coming up.
Any other members? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question about an RFP that we have out there.
Okay. Any other members of council? Staff? Mr. McRoberts.
Yes, I have just one additional item on our second transit public consultation session.
Thank you. Mr. Ritchie?
Thank you, Your Worship. We have distributed additional minutes to the Finance Advisory Committee that we'll be discussing tonight.
Okay. Ms. Coulter?
Thank you, Worship. Just would like to take a moment of Council's time and introduce our new Manager of Planning and Heritage.
Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be giving some clarification on bylaw number 209, which is on tonight's agenda.
Okay, thank you. Confirmation of the minutes, please, from October 21st.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purdon, that the minutes of the regular meeting of City Council held on October 21st, 2013, as printed, be adopted.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Resolution moving council and committee of the whole, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purdon, the City Council now go into Committee of the Whole to consider public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. I will at this time ask if there is any member of council who wishes to disclose pecuniary interest. Seeing none. We are in Committee of the Whole. We do have a public meeting this evening. This is a public meeting with regards to zoning bylaw amendment number 10 and official plan amendment number 5. If you wish to be notified of the adoption of the proposed official plan amendment or passing of the bylaw, or of the refusal of a request to amend the official plan or zoning bylaw, you must make a written request to the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound before the proposed official plan amendment is adopted or bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound to the Ontario Municipal Board. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Corporation of the City of Owen Sound before the proposed official plan amendment is adopted or the bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Municipal Board, unless in the opinion of the board there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. Thank you. If I could get a motion, please, to adjourn the council meeting. Moved by Councillor Twaddle. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. We will now adjourn the council meeting. We're now in the public meeting, and I will invite comments and notice from the clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. At this time, I'll advise council that the notice regarding tonight's meeting was circulated to the prescribed bodies and posted in the Sun-Times on September 27th, 2013, and a media release respecting the location of the public meeting was posted on the city's website on September 30th. Additionally, a courtesy mailing to neighboring property owners was provided on September 27th. All of the comments that have been received at this time have been included on the council meeting agenda, and they have been made available to the media and the public. There were no comments provided after the agenda was published. With respect to personal information for tonight's meeting, any personal information collected at the meeting is collected under the authority of the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the zoning bylaw amendment process and OPA process and will form part of the public record. Any questions about the collection can be addressed to myself, the City Clerk, Kristen Van Alphen.
Thank you very much. I'll invite comments from the acting community planner.
Evening, Mayor, members of council, and the public. I do have a brief presentation here. I would also, while this is loading, just like to remind those members of the public that are here that there's a sign-in sheet on the table right at the door there. And if you could sign in and leave your information, that way we can keep track of members of the public in attendance, and also for future notice associated with this application that can be mailed to you as well. So I just want to take a few minutes to go over the application that has been made to the city, and just to point out some high-level information on the property, the proposal, the existing policy framework, and then also to talk about the next steps that will be undertaken. So the process to date, there's been pre-consultation that has occurred with the city. That was based on information provided by the applicant and circulation of that to city departments and agencies, and then follow-up correspondence and discussion has occurred with the applicant and also with the agency. So this has been a front-end discussion which has assisted in identifying issues to be addressed as part of the complete application submission. The submission of the complete application occurred, and a notice of complete application was given September 27, 2013. A technical report was before this council October 21st, and this evening we have the public meeting as required under the Planning Act. The subject property is 15.5 hectares. Existing uses on the property, as you can see on the air photo, are the large former RCA building, associated parking, and open space areas. The current use of the building is for warehousing, fitness center, dance studio, and a variety of other uses. A portion of the property is also leased for a telecommunications tower. The lands are directly adjacent to the Kenny Drain, which, just looking at the map, I'll call it north to the top, so to the south, that's the Kenny Drain. And there's existing vegetation and tree cover in the southwest corner, and also light vegetation throughout other areas of the site. Access to the site is currently off of East Bayshore Road and 32nd Street East. There's full municipal services available to the site at this point. The site is located within close proximity to existing recreational facilities, for example, the soccer fields, the existing trail system, and to the waterfront. Surrounding uses include the former Vance Technologies building, so a former industrial building, 3 small industrial commercial uses to the east, and the Kiwanis Soccer Complex. To the south is the Hobart Food Equipment business operation, and to the west is East Bayshore Road and Georgian Bay, and there's a small strip of publicly owned land along the shoreline with the boat launch almost well, somewhat directly across from the entrance to the site. Just high-level policy framework, the provincial policy statement encourages the redevelopment of brownfield lands. The applications would represent redevelopment of brownfield lands with a former industrial use on the site. It permits the conversion of lands with employment areas to non-employment areas, subject to meeting certain requirements and comprehensive review. And part of that comprehensive review is confirmation that the lands are not required to satisfy future employment demands. And you'll recall, as part of the official plan review that was recently completed, and I'll talk about this in the next slide, but that was, through that process, the lands were identified as an industrial transition area, and recognition was given that this is an area that could be one that will transition from industrial to other non-employment type uses. So as part of that process, the ministry and the county reviewed and approved that designation. So that set the policy groundwork for these applications to begin to proceed. The PPS also requires contaminated sites to be remediated, and this is something that would be addressed as part of the applications, and most likely through holding provision on the zoning for the completion of a record of site condition. The lands are within the primary settlement area in the Grey County official plan. You recall the Grey County official plan also contains targets for intensification for the city. And it would be my opinion that this type of redevelopment is an example of an opportunity to meet the intensification targets from the county official plan. There'll also be county transportation policies that will need to be considered through the process. I mentioned the official plan land use designation as industrial transition area. The proposal is to redesignate the lands to residential. And again, the industrial transition area designation puts into policy that the application process to residential lands could occur. There's a specific policy 4.8.2.8 which outlines a set of criteria and studies and requirements that need to be addressed as part of a comprehensive review for consideration of the applications and future development. The lands currently are zoned M1 with special provision to provide for a variety of additional uses, and this was done to really provide for some adaptive reuse immediately of the building. The zoning for the lands will need to change to a residential zone to allow for the residential uses that are being proposed. At this point, the zone change applications identify that there would be some requests for reliefs from some elements of the bylaw to allow for likely increased density and form on the property. For example, increasing lot coverage, reducing rear yard setbacks and front yard setbacks to garages. So something that actually is quite typical in other areas when you're looking at a comprehensively planned community, to look at these types of zoning matters in a big picture. The development proposal that was submitted with the applications is identified here and represents a comprehensively planned development. There's a mix of units, approximately 280 residential units are identified, and you can see the yellow and the orange and the pink. The yellow represents low-rise or single detached. The orange, a street townhouse or a townhouse type of development. And the pink or the red, I guess, condominium or multiple residential type townhouse development. And if you count the single detached, there's approximately 190 single detached dwellings. And if you were to take the unit count and the gross area, the proposed density is about 18 units per hectare. There's connectivity to the waterfront shown with the development proposal, so there's been consideration given to how the lands connect with adjacent amenities. There's also connectivity shown to access the trails and the adjacent areas. And there's a central green space identified as a amenity and park area. These applications, the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment would set the policy and the zoning for the lands. Future applications would include plan a subdivision, plan a condominium, and site plan applications as may be required for the multiple residential blocks. The supporting documentation that was provided was identified in the policy 4.8.28 as part of identifying the lands as industrial transition. There's a planning justification report, functional servicing and stormwater, traffic impact study, industrial land impact study, and vegetation overview. All of these studies were packaged and circulated to the city and agencies for review. They're also made available on the city website. So process and next steps, there's a public meeting this evening. We'll be compiling the public input and consolidating with external agency and city department comments for review and analysis. Following that, an application of this size will be working to prepare a post-circulation letter, which will then outline the comments received and the analysis and recommendations to resolve any of the issues. And that would be provided to the applicant, and invitation to meet as may be required with the city. And the city would also work with the applicant to coordinate any meetings that would be necessary with agencies to work to resolve any issues. Final staff report would then be written that would outline the feedback received during public meetings and how those comments have been considered, and would also identify recommendations. And that would be part of a report to council, which at this point target in winter 2014. And as I mentioned, there'll be future applications that would follow the official plan and zoning bylaw process. Plan a subdivision, and I've identified here that it would likely be an integrated planning approach. So Planning Act and Class EA integrated approach to address requirements associated with infrastructure upgrades. And that's my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or provide additional information.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aston. We now, seeing there are no questions from council at this time, I will invite, if there's any members of the public here this evening who would like to provide comments or submit comments to council, we're here to hear those comments this evening, and are looking for anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this particular matter. You could just give your name and address for the clerks, please.
Certainly. My name is Glenn Shields. I'm with the GSP Group, and I'm here on behalf of the applicants. And I have a PowerPoint presentation. Mr. Aston. Oh, here's his. All right. Yep, that's it. Mayor and members of council, members of the public and staff, we're pleased to be here tonight to present a little more information on our project and pick up on the foundation that David had set. I'm here as well tonight with Mr. John Smith from Northridge Properties and Mr. Trevor Heathers as well. And I have copies of my presentation as well. So David gave you a background on the site, and it's certainly a very attractive site for redevelopment. It's about 40 acres in size and is situated along East Bayshore Road, adjacent to the Sound. The site was developed in the late 60s and early 70s. On the left-hand side, you can see the principal building that's on the site. But if you turn around and look back to the west, you've got a wonderful view to the lake. And the bottom picture is taken from the parking lot up beside the building. And the picture on the top on the right-hand side is taken from the water's edge right across the road, looking back towards the center part of the city. So it's a really interesting and really attractive site. The building that's there is about 240,000 square feet or so. It hasn't been used for manufacturing for quite some time. The majority of the use, as David indicated, is actually warehousing now. And there is a lot of land associated with that package of 40 acres that isn't really being used. You can see from the top photo. It's surplus, if you will. There was surplus to the old industrial property, and it's sitting there idle now. So there really is an underutilization of a well-located site in the community. And partly that's due to the nature of the economy and the nature of industry and how things have changed over the past 20 or 30 years. We've done a complete package of studies as required by the city and by the county. David went through the whole list of studies, and I'll just give you a highlights on a couple of the key studies. N. Barry Lyons Consultant, they're real estate economists, undertook an employment land needs study. They looked at the context here in the community and came to the conclusion that, in fact, there is a very large supply of employment land available in the community. Some of it serviced and some of it designated and not serviced. But in totality, it's quite a significant supply of land. It's about 230 hectares of employment land that is available in the community. And old school style, the way I think, that's 560 acres. So there's a lot of land available in the community, and certainly more than enough land to accommodate what's projected to be the land needs in the community up to the year 2031. And a lot of that land, too, as you know, is over on the east side of the community. It's near the highway, and it's really probably better positioned for modern employment requirements. So this site is not needed to satisfy your employment land needs up to 2031, and indeed probably beyond that. And that was one of the key studies we had to do, as David indicated. It's part of the provincial policy statement requirements as well. So we've certainly satisfied that. So if we're not going to develop it for some kind of employment purpose, is it a good site for other things? We certainly think it's a very good site to develop a residential neighborhood. It's by the water. It's got phenomenal views out across the bay. There are community facilities in and around the area. The soccer park is right behind us. We're not in the middle of an industrial area. We've really got the lake on one side, and we've got the soccer park on the other side of us. There are still a few industrial properties there, but it's certainly an area that's in transition. And indeed, there are a lot of community facilities, other community facilities, be they hospital and the rec center and so on, that are all on the east side of the city. So it's not too far to get from this area to a lot of those facilities. Our development concept, as David indicated, has somewhere between 250 and 300 units. It'll really depend on the lot size and the type of houses and so on that'll be built. But what we've tried to do is create a really strong neighborhood here and give it a really strong sense of place. We've got a central park in the middle of the site, which is going to be the real focal point, and we've oriented it in an east-west manner so that when you're in the park, you've got a wonderful view out towards the bay and the shores on the other side. The property is big enough as well that we can provide a mix of housing types on the site. We're looking at the ability to do single detached housing, semi-detached housing, and perhaps a range of townhouses as well, maybe not dissimilar to that shown on the photograph. But it really is, we think, a unique opportunity and one that's probably not available elsewhere in the community. We can develop, you know, a real low-rise waterfront neighborhood here with a range of housing forms focused on that central park, yet connected into the waterfront, connected into the soccer park, and connected into the trail system that's nearby. You know, in the park, hopefully we can develop something with a gazebo, maybe not unlike this one, benches, a place for people to really congregate and really give the neighborhood some identity. We've looked as well at industrial and residential compatibility. That's also a requirement in the policies. And as I indicated, there's actually really quite a limited industrial fabric in this area. The Vayance project to the north is now sitting idle, but that building is set well back from 32nd Street, and it's probably about 70 or 80 meters from this property and separated by the street. We've got the soccer facility, of course, on the east side, and the Hobart plant, which is also part of the industrial transition area, is to the south. And its facility is about 200 meters from the south property limit of the RCA site. It's separated by the Kenny Drain and also a strip of land on the south side of the Kenny Drain that's zoned hazard as well. And it's about 60 or 70 meters thick, and if you recall back to the zoning map that David had up, there's a green band there. So there's an area immediately south of the site that is not likely to be developed for industrial purposes as well. So we think there's adequate separation there, and we can make a good fit. And I think in the long run, of course, residential probably makes more sense next to the lake as well from an environmental perspective. In terms of the technical aspects, we had a series of studies done based on the development concept that we've got. There is adequate traffic capacity available, and all of the key intersections in and around the site were tested. There is water service available, and there is sewage service available as well. So, as David said, this is an infill site. It is a site that's already there and serviced. There is a sewage pumping station. That's a picture of it right along East Bayshore. It does require upgrading, but that can be certainly undertaken in conjunction with the project development. And of course, with the project, we would develop a whole new stormwater management system as well that would also be an improvement over what's there today. In terms of natural environment, the site is by and large fairly open. There's one corner down in the southwest corner of the site where there is an immature woodlot in there. The stormwater that comes off the site, or off the roof drain, I should say, drains down into that area, and there's poorly defined ditches. So it does get wet down there on occasion after a major rainstorm, and then the stormwater, I should say, dissipates. That corner of the property, though, is regulated by the Conservation Authority. We have some comments back from them, and we're going to now sit down with them and work out the best way to manage that area and look, you know, how we handle the stormwater in that area. The extent that we have to do grading and some tree removal, and we'll also be working with them on compensation packages and looking at replanting and establishing some new environmental features along that corner and possibly along the Kenny Drain as well. So I think in the end, we'll be able to work through something with conservationist staff and come up with a good solution for that area. So that takes me to the end, and I think just in summary, again, as David has pointed out, this is an industrial area that's in transition. Your new official plan, OPA 4, certainly identified that. It provided a process to go through to facilitate a change in land use, and we're in that process now. And as well, of course, the new planning policies, not only here, but through the PPS and others, do promote intensification and reuse of underutilized and service sites, and we think that's what this project does as well. But I think the really key thing for us certainly is this is a unique opportunity for the community to develop a really wonderful low-rise residential neighborhood by the water. We can provide a range of housing types, and we think facilitate a really unique experience for people who are in the community or wanting to move to the community, and will have a wonderful choice and some new neighborhood to live in. So those are our comments and summary, and be pleased to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much. We do have a couple of members of council that have some questions for you, so, yeah. Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you. A couple of different questions. I think this is a very interesting proposal. I think it's the kind of development, obviously, that as a council we're very interested in, and hope that it can go forward. First question about, and I think you touched on this briefly in your presentation, about 14 or 15 years ago there was a proposal came forward for a similar type of development on this property. The rules and everything were the planning approach rules were quite different at that time, and the proposal really didn't go forward. But one of the major concerns raised at that time, was by the neighboring industries. At that point, Goodyear was active, and also Hobart. And they had concerns about kind of the retroactive impact that putting residential into an industrial neighborhood could have on their operations, where even though they were operating within the rules when there was no residential nearby, all of a sudden there's a significant change, or it could be a significant impact. So I'm just wondering how that is being addressed, or how you plan to address that. And then I have one other brief question as well.
Well, the Goodyear plant, as you know, is not in operation anymore, but certainly it could be reused. Any new operation that would come in there would have to get a new certificate of approval for their operation there. But as I indicated earlier, it is well set back from the community, and the loading operations from that building were on the far side of the building on the east side. So, I don't think there'd be an issue there. In terms of the Hobart site, again, as I indicated, it is well set back from this site. It's 200 meters, and the Ministry of the Environment has some guidelines for setbacks as a mitigating strategy, where you have, different land uses. And for an operation like that, the setbacks are quite limited. They're 20, 30 meters for a Class 1 type of industry. Class 2 industries, which are a little heavier, which I don't think this is, goes up to 70 meters, I should say. So we're a full 200 meters away. So we don't think there's going to be any, impact on their business, and vice versa. Obviously, we want it to work both ways.
Thank you. I think one of the issues that was raised by both industries at the time was noise abatement.
Yeah.
And so I just
certainly, if there is any perceived, issues, we'd be only too pleased to sit down with them and discuss them.
And the other question I have, you mentioned your traffic studies and so on. Has anything been identified with regards to the unopened section of 9th Avenue East, and whether that would need, or whether there would be a benefit in opening that section? I mean, you talk about access and proximity to the hospital, the 16th Street retail corridor, that sort of thing. The more direct route would be from the easterly exit of your development and up a 9th Avenue East link, if that were ever to be opened. And I just wondered if that has been addressed in any way.
Certainly. Our traffic study was based on the road network that's in place today, and the conclusion was that all the intersections do work. Would it be a benefit? For sure it would be a benefit, but it certainly isn't needed or necessary today to accommodate this level of development.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Adair.
Thank you, Worship. All things being equal, when do you expect to break ground on this?
Well, we're just starting the planning process now, so David laid out the schedule for the official plan and zoning. So That'll take us through the early part of next year. We still have a subdivision to do and subdivision approval and then detailed design. So the earliest I could see something happen would be probably, mid to later part of maybe 2015 or maybe 2016. It does take some time to get to that point.
Councillor Purdon.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. It was nice to see the pictures in a little more detail. The health unit had a few comments, and I wondered whether there were any plans for affordable housing as part of this development in terms of the range of affordability within this community. I think your goal is to create a community, and I'm just kind of interested in the kind of community you have.
That's a very good question. We're a long piece away, sort of ties in with Councillor Dare's question, that we're a long piece away, though, from having those sort of details as to exact nature of the housing, forms and types and price points and so on. But I think there is going to be an opportunity, because it's big enough, to provide a range of housing possibilities there.
I really do hope that that's what happens, that there's a range of choice for people living in that. And the other was from the health unit study as well, or comments were about the opportunities for linkages to existing trail networks to make this a community where active life is supported, and it certainly looks like that's the goal with the Central Park area. But whether you as a developer would be looking for opportunities to link into those existing trail networks, or making the linkages as part of the plans for the development. It's not so easy to see that on the sketch. And whether there will be sidewalks, so there's opportunities and ability to walk on the site.
Absolutely. I think those are all really critical things that are important in making this a real complete neighborhood. We've got a fabulous waterfront opportunity here across the way, and that land is in public ownership. Right now it's undeveloped. It's gravel and parking lot. Hopefully in the fullness of time that can be improved and enhanced. We've got the trail system just to the south, and for sure, we need to connect into that. That's a fabulous resource. You can walk then or bike all the way to downtown. We've got the soccer park across the street, and so the concept plan that you saw is designed so that the one of the streets lines up with the entrance to the soccer park over here on the side. So we're certainly, going to facilitate that. So those are all very important things. You've got to have an active and healthy lifestyle. And the park is going to be an important part of that too. The street system, allows you to go for a nice walk, go for loops, and always come back, to the middle as well. So for sure, we want to promote that kind of living.
Councillor Lemon.
Very interesting development. One concern that I have is there is only one vehicular access to the site. And we're creating a very, very large cul-de-sac in terms of the density of housing. Has any thought been given to a secondary entrance in case there's a problem with that entrance?
We actually have 2 points of access, one on East Bayshore here.
Right.
And then over in this location, we're connecting back out to 9th. So this is a public street as well. So we've got 2 points of access. Now we'll be developing this in phases. It won't all happen at once. So we'll likely have to have some temporary points of access. For example, this might be one up here, for the first phase, which will be generally over in this area here. So I'm sure your public works staff will ensure that we have enough points of access and egress into the site. And it's also important, of course, from a fire perspective too.
And the other question I've got, the lot size, you talked about, I believe, increasing or decreasing the amount of green space that's around the units. What lot size are you envisioning?
The lot sizes haven't been determined yet, but I think we'll have a mix. There may be some in the high 30s up through 40s and perhaps 50s as well. That's still to be determined in conjunction with doing a more detailed housing market study.
And so basically, you're going to a smaller lot size. That enables you to go to a smaller lot size if you have the higher percentage of occupancy allowed.
Well, again, I think there'll be a range and a mix, so it won't all be small units by any stretch of the imagination. But there is certainly a role and place in the marketplace, for some smaller lots. So we'll certainly have a range of lots. The couple of adjustments that we've requested in our zoning amendment are not dissimilar to some of the regulations being used now in a lot of other communities as well with respect to, they were primarily with respect to coverage, building coverage, and also then rear yards. And so it was providing some flexibility in those regulations to provide for a more contemporary type of house.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Boddy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Anytime we've got development happening in our city, it doesn't happen enough, it seems, for most of us or for the public. So it's a good day to the city when we're having these discussions. I note in the county and in the provincial ministers' comments, they comment on the fact that we have an abundance of industrial lands, which is good, and you've pointed that out, and I think the N. Barry line consultants. Yep. They point out that you're maybe a little bit light in the study on the need for residential. Do you have residential need? What would that be? Marketing demand, I suppose, is the same thing going forward. Have you started that process yet, or?
Yes, we have some preliminary data, and we'll certainly sit down with David and go through that and prepare a response for the county and the province.
So that's coming.
Yes, yes.
That'll be interesting to see the demand, and we hope it's great. Yeah,
and certainly the county went through the growth management exercise and did provide some projections and forecasts. I think the information that we've been able to glean to date is that the city does have an ample supply of short-term land and service lots, the 1 to 3 year supply. But after that, things get a little dicey because of servicing constraints in some of the other properties and some of the other neighborhoods. So while, on paper, there may be a 20-year designated supply of land out there, the reality is not necessarily the same because of the serviceability of some land. So
yeah, I agree. Thank you.
And the other thing too to remember is that while the land supply, issue or equation is certainly important, this is a redevelopment site, and it is an intensification site. The county and the province are also promoting intensification as well. So this is an area that's already serviced, and we can make efficient use of this land and probably put it to greater utilization than what it is today.
Great, thank you.
Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. Question, and it might be better suited for Mr. Aston, but it touches on some of the comments Councillor Twaddle made. 9th Avenue East, the missing link, as he called it, over the hill, that's one concern or one question, I guess. The other one is south of, as shown on there, of 9th Avenue East, there is a closed, I guess you'd call it a closed road allowance right now. It loops south from there and goes around by the Hobart plant. Yes, there you go. Did the traffic study take into account any improvements or adjustments to that closed piece of 9th Avenue East? Not over the hill, I'm talking the portion that's currently barricaded.
I haven't got the study here in front of me to go through that, but my recollection was, again, they based the analysis on the existing road network as it is today. So it didn't point to any requirement for that piece. David?
Yeah, through your worship, I would concur with that as a response. The traffic analysis looked at the existing road conditions, and then, thank you.
That's collaboration.
Yeah, the existing road conditions, and then the traffic derived from the proposal, and determined that the existing road network was adequate to accommodate the proposed traffic. So it didn't look at in detail opening alternative routes or opening new routes that are there, but I think it's something that we could probably discuss with Public Works. But at this point, that was the traffic study conclusion, so it wasn't driving any further analysis of those roads.
That's coming down over the hill. I suggest would be one endeavor, and fair enough whether that's needed or not. Upgrading an existing road allowance might be another thought, but that's fine. You're looking into it, so that's great. Thank you.
Any further? Councillor Chamberlain.
I'd just like to comment that near the end of August, when we were doing the First Impressions program with Aurelia, and I had come back and reported about all of the opportunities to go to live in Aurelia because they had quite an abundance of residential opportunities. I think that with this report and what's been happening with our new condos this fall, I think that their first impressions of Owen Sound will be quite a bit improved.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for your presentation and for responding to all of the questions. We appreciate it. We look forward to this moving along positively, and I know that staff will certainly be working with you closely along the way. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you, and
Thank you.
we look forward to coming back soon, too. Soon,
Thanks.
David, right? Soon.
Thank you. I will now declare the public meeting is closed. Oh, I should probably let the Director of Community Services in, and the public, yes. Absolutely. Any members of the public here that would like to speak to this?
Thank you. My name's Len Bird. I'm with ITW Hobart Food Equipment Group here in Owen Sound. This is my second council meeting I've been to. The last one was back in 1998. As Councillor Twaddle referenced, we were talking about the same type of development here. First off, I'm not here to say that ITW supports or disapproves of the plan, but the concerns are still the same, as Councillor Twaddle pointed out, that it's in the best interest of Hobart to have the same ability for the future use of the land as it is afforded now and into the future. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Certainly, are there any other members of the public who would like to provide comments on this particular issue? Certainly, we're in the midst of an enormous change in this community, and we certainly respect and value very highly the industry that we have in our community. And I am certain that through some careful planning and lots of dialogue, that a reasonable approach can be brought forward to this. I really appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you, Len. Councillor Lemon.
That raises a question. The area between Hobart's and the old RCA plant, the area that's to be planned to be redeveloped, is that all zoned as hazard land? And I guess I'm asking the director of whoever.
Mr. Aston has the answer at the
Yeah, I'll just
on his
put it
fingertips.
back up on the screen so you can see it's two things. So this is the official plan designation, and this is the new and approved official plan. So you can see, if I can find, here's the subject lands. Along the south is the Kenny Drain. Here's the Hobart lands. Here is the lands designated open space. So those would not permit any uses other than those allowed in the open space. Here's the hazard mapping. It's pulled back a bit. But again, here's the subject lands, the Kenny Drain, and the hazard land designation. and the Hobart lands. So there is an intervening for a period there of lands designated open space and hazard that would restrict industrial development.
Any estimate of how wide that hazard land is at that point?
I think Mr. Shields had the measurement. I unfortunately don't have the measurement, but I think he mentioned roughly 70 to 80 meters, but I don't recall. I don't have a measurement on it. We could confirm that as a follow-up, but I don't have it on my fingertips.
Thank you.
Sharp eye there, Councillor Lemon. Thank you. Any other members of the public who would like to speak to this? Any members? Director of Community Services, any closing comments? Members of Council? Clerk? Okay. We'll close. The public meeting is now closed. We'll ask for a motion, please, to reconvene our council meeting. Councillor Wright? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We are now in a regular council meeting, actually committee of the whole. And I would ask the Director of Community Services if at this time she would like to do an introduction.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce to council and members of the public who are here tonight and people watching at home the city's new Manager of Planning and Heritage. This is Anne Balaban, and I'm certainly pleased to...
She's on the job already.
She's on the job. Anne started with us today, and certainly will be enjoying tonight's public meeting, and we look forward to working with Anne, and Anne looks forward to meeting with all of city staff, council, as well as the development community, and welcome Anne.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction, and I'm very pleased to be here, and I really look forward to working with each and every one of you and working with the community in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Welcome, and it'll be nothing if not fun, and it'll never be dull.
That's great. I'm
Yeah,
glad to hear that.
it's great to have you on board. Thank you. And now I'm going to share with the council and members of the community an incredible honor that the City of Owen Sound has recently received. This is for the entire community, and this is for everyone who has ever had anything to do with the ongoing preservation and or celebration of our built heritage and our cultural heritage. This is the His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales Prize for Outstanding Stewardship of the Built Heritage and Outstanding Leadership in Municipal Governance in Heritage Matters. It is an incredibly highly regarded award. We are in very good company. Past winners include Quebec City, Edmonton, Oakville, St. John, Victoria, and last year's winner was Saginaw, Quebec. And Owen Sound, Ontario, is now added to that list. It's something that everybody in this community can be very, very proud of. Heritage Canada Foundation provided an opportunity in the City of Ottawa at the National Gallery on Friday evening to recognize a series and a host of award winners in a variety of categories. Owen Sound is the only award winner for this particular one, and His Royal Highness is certainly committed to, as he puts it in his words, the community regeneration through regenerating heritage buildings. And many of us in this room, many people at home, and many people that have gone before us have worked tirelessly to protect and preserve our heritage features and our cultural attributes. And this award is in recognition of all of those efforts collectively. So I congratulate everyone. This is ours to enjoy and celebrate. This is a permanent recognition, and we will be having an open and public reception in a couple of weeks' time, just before a council meeting, that will see the installation of a bronze plaque on the outside of City Hall. So we have a moment we can share a YouTube video at the awards ceremony. I realized it was a very prestigious and large award when we were directed to sit in the front row of the auditorium, and on the Jumbotron screen, there was a direct message from His Royal Highness. So we'll share that with you
Ladies and
tonight.
gentlemen, I'm so sorry not to be with you on this special evening in Ottawa, but I wanted to send you all a brief message to offer my heartfelt congratulations to the City of Owen Sound, Ontario, as the 2013 winner of my Prince of Wales Prize for Municipal Heritage Leadership. As you may know, I feel strongly about the importance of conserving our historic built environment for economic, ecological, cultural, and spiritual reasons. So it is very rewarding to be able to recognize hard-working communities like Owen Sound with this prize. Now, it has been over 25 years since I began to work to address the negative impacts that post-war planning and design trends were having on the quality of life of our communities, on our built and cultural heritage and the environment, by establishing charities that demonstrate, by example, that an alternative approach is actually viable. Today, through my Foundation for Building Community and my Regeneration Trust, we are showing that it is possible both to revive and reuse historic buildings and districts in an imaginative way, whilst also making a tidy profit. Increasingly, it is being recognized that our built heritage is a valuable economic asset that can contribute to our future prosperity and community pride. Pour une petite vie, Owen Sound a consacré un effort remarquable à la conservation et à la promotion de son patrimoine, non seulement pour honorer son passé, mais pour rehausser la qualité de vie et le sentiment. Ladies and gentlemen, do the municipal working to profit. Increasingly, economic remarquable à la conservation et à la promotion de son patrimoine, non seulement pour honorer son passé, mais pour rehausser la qualité de vie et le sentiment. Mais pour rehausser la qualité de vie.
I might suggest we do the next deputation while I set up the YouTube video. We could come back to this and I'll have it queued up where we've left off.
It's the last 90 seconds is kind of the exciting part for the community, I think.
Okay, I'll get it.
I also want to thank and recognize Sandra Parks, Community Heritage Planner. Well, I have to say the nomination from the Community Planning and Heritage Advisory Committee, as well as the work that you did on putting together the package for the jury's consideration, is very impressive, obviously very impressive, and stood up against quite a number of other communities across Canada. So to Sandra and to the Community Planning and Heritage Advisory Committee, a sincere thank you. This is an incredible moment in Owen Sound. We often forget that we are many in the trenches, and we're working away, and we have a passion, and we believe in the value of our history, our heritage, and particularly our older buildings. And to be recognized as a community for having a series of policies and programs that are showing real leadership in that particular area is quite something. There were a number of folks at the awards ceremony who, quite frankly, couldn't say enough about Owen Sound. They couldn't say enough about the beauty of this community, and they couldn't say enough about the incredible inventory of old buildings that we have. And they are assets. They're incredible assets to this community. So I thank you sincerely on behalf of council and the community for your work. Thank you.
And that is what makes Owen Sound unique, is all of those
Absolutely.
buildings. And you're right about having to have a passion for this kind of work. I've said it, Bill asked me the same kind of question before about having that passion. If you don't have that passion, you would get out of the business really quick, because there are as many negatives that are thrown at you as there are positives. This is one of the best positives that I could imagine.
Like many things, exactly. I understand the clerk's got the last little bit queued up, and then we'll move on. Thank you.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
De vie et le sentiment d'appartenance de ses résidents. La municipalité d'Owen Sound a ainsi accompli un travail exceptionnel en vue de préserver son histoire, en investissant dans son patrimoine depuis 40 ans. It is often the local community that encourages government to continue to treasure the community value and economic potential of its heritage. When the community is consulted in what should be done to keep their town or city special, invariably protecting built heritage and the natural environment are key desires. Today it is vital that we find more sustainable ways to live and work, and preserving and building upon local character is at the heart of making sustainable communities. We are finally beginning to realize that the resources we have on this earth are limited. Preserving our historic built environment will not only be of great value for years to come, but will safeguard our environment for future generations. Je tiens à féliciter personnellement la mairesse Deborah Haswell, qui accepte le prix au nom de la vie d'Owen Sound. Des collectivités comme la sienne me rassurent que les gens restent instinctivement attachés à leurs racines et à leurs points de repère en ce monde changeant. If you would forgive me, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to repeat that last bit in English. I would like personally to congratulate Mayor Deborah Haswell, who is accepting the award on behalf of the City of Owen Sound. For it is communities like yours which reassure me that people are still instinctively feeling the need for roots and landmarks in a rapidly changing world. Please keep up the good work. Bon courage.
Congratulations to everyone. It's wonderful. And we'll move along now to our second deputation, and I'll invite Heather Hughes, the Assistant Curator from Owen Sound Museums. And this is a great project that we've been watching over the last 6 weeks or so come to life.
Thank
Welcome.
you, Your Worship, and members of council and members of the public. I have a slideshow. You just have to exit it.
Can you push the little button? There we go.
Of course. Thanks. I like the mouse pad that is here as well. It's great.
It was strategic, I'm sure.
So I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of the Tom Thompson Art Gallery, the Owen Sound Little Theater, and the Owen Sound Artists Co-op. And as you mentioned, we have been working on a very exciting public arts project, the Window to the World of the Theater. This is one of our Tag Your It programming initiatives that the Tom has started with the core purpose of creating public artwork within the community for increasing awareness and engaging audiences outside of the traditional gallery context. So we're really trying to get people who might not necessarily come into the gallery excited about artwork that's in the community. This is our mural team. The great thing about this project, we were engaging local youth and student artists within the community and pairing them up with professional, exceptional professional artists in the art world. We had the privilege of having an incredible patient teacher on this team, this man right here, Billy Goodcat. And, oh, I guess I should play this. Get your full. Billy Goodcat had so much patience with all of us. I was actually lucky enough to be one of the artist participants involved in this project. He gave everyone the sense of it's okay to make a mistake and just go with it attitude, which was refreshing because we were working on a 600 square foot surface, a little bit intimidating. I wanted to give council members and members of Owen Sound community just a sense of what went into this project. So all of our student artists created these preliminary designs that made up the final rendering of the mural. So you'll see everything from the Phantom of the Opera, Les Mis, an upcoming production at the Roxy Theatre, Fiddler on the Roof, or maybe a more imaginative Man Sitting on the Moon, as well as other theatrical images. I think the involvement in youth in this project was the core success to it. Billy gave these kids a sense of ownership. He let them take on the project, make it their own, and I think everyone's pretty happy with the final mural rendering. Part of Billy's role was taking all of the images and creating a uniform image that would go up on the Roxy wall. So you can see the outlines and renderings he did. Of course, adding color, making it more vibrant. This project wouldn't have been possible without the support from the City of Owen Sound, the members of its community. Public Works was great. They actually helped clean the wall for us before we started the preliminary prep work. They also provided the barricades that you see here, so we didn't have any surprise drivers. CRS was very lovely. They provided scaffolding free of charge to us. Georgian Bay Fire and Safety made us look like scientists by providing us with these lovely gas masks. And local donors of Owen Sound, there was so much support from community members. They made personal donations to the project, and Billy and Mark put their names up on the wall, which was great. Here's some of us working away. I'm more used to using a brush. I'm an oil painter, so this was completely new, completely challenging, and Billy, you made me so comfortable, like just go for it, Heather. Spray paint away. You can see Mark, Morag, and Kala working away. A lot of the students that were involved in the prep work and the designs, seeing as it was September when we really started getting into spray painting, they had left for school, so we worked well together, I think. And Billy and Mark, my hat is off to you because you guys did the bulk of this project, and I think everyone is impressed with the results. I apologize for the warped view. The panoramic setting on my iPhone, I really like it, so I took a couple.
It looks really neat.
And just again to thank all of the donors, sponsors, artists involved with this Tag Your It community project, the Tom Thompson Art Gallery, the Roxy Theatre, the Artists Co-op, Canada Council for the Arts, Ontario Arts Council, the City of Owen Sound, CRS, Georgian Bay Fire and Safety, and the Fed Development Ontario. FedDev. And all of our artists. It wouldn't have been possible without your help.
Well, congratulations, and thank you so much for taking this on. It's so great to see so many community groups and businesses that really just came together. And when there's a positive movement in the community, it's amazing how groups can come together. And I really, hats off to all of you. Congratulations to all the artists involved. It looks great. I took pictures every few days. So I have the blank white wall, the rectangle, and then I have a little progression of about 8 or 9 pictures that I took. So it was really fun to watch it come to life, and it certainly has brightened up just a
mundane wall.
Yeah. So look forward to more.
That's our goal.
Comments there. I think we might have some questions from members of council. Councillor Wright.
This really isn't a question, but a few weeks ago, I had an opportunity to be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I took a bus tour, one of those double-decker bus tours, and on those tours, the tour guides point out the murals in Pittsburgh, and they tell you the background of the mural, and I come back and told somebody, and I'm sure it was a councillor, about how wonderful these murals look in this community because it brightens up walls. Now, we have our own mural, and I am hoping that we are going to be just as, I know we will be proud, I'm hoping everybody will be as proud of that mural, that we can show everybody that comes to our community that wonderful mural. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, and congratulations to everyone. Councillor Lemon.
I was chair of the Culture Committee when we started looking at art in public places. Wow. Has that ever taken off in this project? That is fantastic. It's going to make downtown even more warm and inviting, and that's the kind of uniqueness because it's reflective of the community and what's gone on in the community. And it's interesting that this comes after we received that award, and this raises us up, in my mind, to a new level, and I want to congratulate you and all the participants. I mean, painting on a canvas that size, I'm not an artist, trust me. I have art teachers who will testify to that. But I can appreciate it, and that mural is very, very exciting. It's something you can spend a lot of time looking at it to get all the depth that's in there. There's almost like they're layers, and it's really wonderful, and it just makes me proud to be someone from Owen Sound to have seen that come in our community. Congratulations to everyone.
Thank you. Just to add, it was a great way to celebrate a very significant thing that happened this year. The celebration of the Owen Sound Roxy Theatre and its 100th birthday. And we were so happy to partner with Ali on this project, and that was our art incentive to make her building more beautiful and brighten up the city of Owen Sound.
It's a terrific partnership. It really is. Congratulations to everyone. Thank you so much. And everyone is welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. You don't have to, but you're welcome to. So thank you so much. We will move to public question period. Are there any members of the public here who would like to ask a question of this council? Seeing none, we have correspondence. We have one email request from Nancy Goucher of Environmental Defense. This is a request for support of passage of a Great Lakes Protection Act. What is council's direction on this? Councillor Lemon.
Yes, I believe it. We should pass this resolution and forward it to the appropriate people.
Okay, we have a motion to the motion. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a fairly lengthy consent agenda. If we could see that up on the screen, please, for people at home. Some new businesses and quite a few planning notifications. It's council's direction on that. Thank you, Councillor Adair.
Move the consent agenda as presented.
Any discussion on any of the items? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. I'm going to ask council's indulgence and ask on our first report if we can bring item 12B7 forward. And I believe that is Mr. DeLeebeeck's presentation on the update on winter maintenance policy. And as the weather turns, it's becoming closer every day, it seems.
Thank you, Your Worship. If I could get the city clerk to switch over to the presentation, that would be great. I just have a little presentation I'd like to go through to speak to the report real quick. I'd like to take council through a little bit of background information on the winter control program, review last winter, look at some of the changes that occurred to the minimum maintenance standard, some of the policy changes that are brought forward to you as well, touch on some snow plow safety tips, and then identify some of the next steps moving forward. Owen Sound receives about 10 feet of snow every year on average. A major snowstorm can deliver 1 foot to 2 feet of snow. The city maintains 280 lane kilometers of roadway, 100 kilometers of sidewalk, and 19 municipal or facility parking lots, as well as various walkways, steps, and pathways. The city still continues to own the same amount of equipment as it has in the past, of 4 snowplow trucks, 2 graders, 2 sidewalk machines, a loader plow, and a loader snowblower. As winter approaches, Public Works is very busy monitoring the weather conditions fairly regularly. We have seen some snow on the ground before Halloween, so we are very keen at this time of the year. We stockpile material. We outfit our equipment with the snow removal accessories. We review the routes to identify any changes that may have occurred or new developments, identify hazards, and staff undergo training. The first significant snowfall can happen as early as October or as late as December. Last year's winter season was a unique winter season. Today we've received more snowfall than we have in the last 4 years. It's comparable to the winter seasons of 2005, 2007, and 2008 in terms of total snowfall, severity, and intensity. In fact, we received the worst snowfall or the worst snowstorm since February of 2007, where we received more than 40 inches of snow in just under 6 days. It's important to remember that 6 inches of snow in 2 to 3 hours is a different snowstorm than receiving 6 inches of snow in 8 to 10 hours. Some of the successes that we did realize last winter season was that we reduced our overtime costs by about 15 to 20%, which in turn led to a reduction in our cost per lane kilometer by about 5 to 8%. We did identify some issues last winter season. The most common public complaint revolved around the maintenance of sidewalks. Communication was also poor with the public and the crew. Training throughout the season, the need for additional training became apparent for both staff and crew, as well as interdepartment staff. The documentation was also lacking. So throughout the course of the last winter seasons, improvements to the winter control program have been ongoing in consultation with staff and the operators, because the operators take a lot of pride in the work that they do. I get to see it firsthand. They're very proud of the work that they do, and they're most familiar with the city infrastructure. So moving forward, I bring forward to you today a revised policy. We're in the process of developing a communication plan that includes a webpage dedicated to winter control, flyers which have been distributed to hopefully all of you, social media and media releases, as well as an incident management system. We've completed one-person plow training. We've done grader training. We're in the process right now of doing cross-training with other divisional staff for a larger pool of resources. We've implemented an improved documentation process, and we've completed the comprehensive sidewalk review. We've listened to the public, we've tracked their comments over the course of last winter and all the way up until now, and we're responding to the public by revising the policy to better serve the community. Some of the changes that occurred to the minimum maintenance standard were a result of the Gillian versus Region of Halton, and these changes were implemented on January 25th, 2013. Some of these changes include the concept of substantial probability. What this concept does is it recognizes that every forecast doesn't always result in the accumulation of snow, even though the probability may be high. What it does is it says through the combination of weather monitoring, patrolling, and experience with the local weather patterns and road network will allow the decision maker to make a call on whether there will be a substantial probability of snow accumulation or icy roadways. A new section was also added to the minimum maintenance standards in regarding weather monitoring. It basically requires that municipalities not only monitor the current weather, but also the weather forecasted to occur in the next 24 hours. It's something that Public Works already does. The patrolling section was also revised to indicate that if there is a substantial probability through the weather monitoring process, that a patrol should be done on representative roadways within the municipality to check for road conditions, document the road conditions, and dispatch equipment if required. The snow accumulation and ice control sections were also revised. Essentially, the snow accumulation section was revised. Revision means that does not mean that a municipality can stand by and do nothing until the trigger depth has been exceeded. The relationship between snow accumulation and ice control has been strengthened with the inclusion of the prevention of ice formation in the ice control section. So a municipality must monitor the weather, patrol, and take steps to prevent that formation of ice by either freezing rain or snowpack on a roadway. The policy was revised to reflect the changes to the minimum maintenance standard. It was revised to add some clarity and consistency throughout the document. We introduced the declaration of a winter maintenance season. We added the weather monitoring section. We clarified the patrolling requirements within the policy. We did not adjust the snow accumulation section of the policy. We revised the ice control section of the policy to reflect the substantial probability in the formation of ice. And we provided some greater detail for parking lots and snow removal. I'd like to take just a quick minute to review the roadway classification system for the city that still remains unchanged from last year, and quickly go through those descriptions. Our primary roadways are Class 2 and 3 roadways that carry large volumes of traffic to and throughout the city, as well as transit service routes and emergency routes. I think this is a good time to point out that last year, Council decided to essentially upgrade their Class 3 roadways into a Class 2 category by servicing them at the same level of service. So essentially, they recognize that the minimum maintenance standard doesn't always apply to everybody. Secondary roadways are our Class 4 roadways, which happen to carry medium volumes of traffic, as well as roadways that front schools. Class 5 are our local roadways that service a specific address, and we have our dead ends and cul-de-sacs for non-through streets. The level of service has not changed. It's still the same as before, and that with the accumulation of 2 inches of snow, we'll be responding within 6 hours, 4 inches of snow for a local roadway within 24 hours, and ice accumulation, the time frames are a little bit more stringent due to the fact that they are slippery conditions. So what does this all mean? It's no change to our primary roads and our hills, or emergency routes to hospitals, or bus routes, or our downtown core. There's still a direct link between emergency services, so fire, ambulance, and police services, with Public Works to ensure that they can access any emergency situation during the winter. But what it does mean is that there's a potential longer period of time before servicing those local residential streets and dead ends and cul-de-sacs. We will not be incurring overtime to clear local and non-through roadways that have not reached or not anticipated to reach the snowfall limit or time frame. Moving on to sidewalks is probably the most significant change in this entire policy. And I just quickly would like to point out that there is no provincial minimum maintenance standards for winter maintenance on sidewalks. Section 44 of the Municipal Act indicates that a municipality is not liable for personal injury by snow and ice on a sidewalk, except in the case of gross negligence. So it is the city's intention to provide a reasonable standard of care to prevent that harm to others. The current sidewalk classification utilizes the same classification as the roadway. However, sidewalks perform a different function than roadways in the transportation network, and so their priority for winter maintenance should reflect the common use of pedestrian traffic. In order to do that, we looked at routes to schools and crossing guard locations, the transit routes, large retirement homes, high density areas, looked at zoning maps for commercial areas, and looked at the locations of public health facilities, with the goal to clear safe access routes to schools and public health buildings, as well as sidewalks in commercial areas, and ensure that at least one sidewalk is cleared in all residential areas. The comprehensive review is to address the most common concern received last winter. It's not a reduction in service. It's not looking for savings to reduce the budget. It's to improve the overall effectiveness and efficiency of our operation. By establishing a set of criteria, sidewalks will be prioritized to ensure the most common pedestrian traffic patterns are serviced more appropriately. So I'd like to take you through the description of the sidewalks that are detailed in the policy. Priority number 1 would be sidewalks within a special event area when they happen to occur, in recognition that during those events will likely create or generate more pedestrian traffic. Our priority 2 sidewalks are sidewalks along bridges and steep hills, along our primary roadways, and sidewalks that service schools and commercial areas. We will try to service at least one side of the sidewalk in those areas first, whereas priority 3 would then pick up the remaining side, as well as address the sidewalks along transit routes, sidewalks that service large retirement homes, high density areas that use transit, as well as public health facilities. Our priority 4 sidewalks can be summarized as sidewalks along secondary roadways in residential and commercial areas, and sidewalks within parks and open space. It's important to note that only one side would be serviced along these roadways. Priority 5 would be sidewalks along our local roadways in residential areas, and again, one side would be serviced. The policy speaks to that sidewalks will not be serviced if they're along a non-through street, if no sidewalk precedes or follows it, or it terminates mid-block. It's not really providing a continuous connection for the sidewalk network. If it's adjacent to a vertical drop or a large body of water, or along a steep grade where the operator and the public safety may be compromised, for example, the harbor walls. Sidewalks that might be better utilized for snow storage down narrow streets will not be serviced. For example, 3rd Avenue A West and 2nd Avenue A West are very narrow streets and historically have been used for snow storage and will continue to use them for that function. Sidewalks that have a looping nature that take you back to the place of origin do not really transport you from point A to point B, but rather from point A back to point A. And sidewalks will not be serviced if the opposite side in the residential area is already being serviced. Sidewalks will not be serviced if there's less than 2 inches of snow similar to our primary roadways. And they will be maintained in a smooth, snow-packed condition. And that's primarily due to the fact of limitations of the equipment. We cannot get all the way down to the concrete surface. There's just always a little bit left. It's difficult to have an instantaneous response for sidewalks because roadway snow is often cleared onto the sidewalk. During heavy snowfall events, snow blowers are often used. When snow blowers are used, it takes approximately 3 times as long for us to get to all those sidewalks within the city. When icy conditions do exist, they'll be treated at the same priority and time frame as snow clearing, which happens to be 12 hours for those sidewalks within a special event when they happen to occur, 24 hours for our priority 2 sidewalks, 48 hours for our priority 3, and when time and manpower exist for our priority 4 and 5 sidewalks. I'd like to take just a minute here to highlight that the parking lots and snow removal section of the policy was revised to ensure a consistent format. So we've added a class designation system and a priority sequence in order to continue the same type of theme throughout the document and provide a better description of the level of service, which I'm not proposing be changed at this point in time. I'd also like to take just a quick minute for all of those viewers at home or members of the public about some snowplow safety tips. Stay back at least 15 meters from a snowplow or 3 car lengths. Ensure that the snowplow operator can see you. If you can't see the mirrors, he can't see you. Snowplows make frequent stops at intersections and often have to back up. So give that snowplow plenty of room. Do not pass on the right. If the snowplow operator looks like he's opening up that right-hand lane, he's actually just performing a maneuver before he's able to negotiate the upcoming corner. Allow yourself some extra time to arrive at your destination. This is Canada, it is the winter. We need to slow things down just a little bit. Never cut off a snowplow. They're carrying large volumes of material and they cannot stop as quickly as a car. And do not let children climb or tunnel in the snowbanks. They could slip off and fall into the path of oncoming traffic, or the tunnel could collapse on top of them. And do not shovel snow back onto the roadway. You create a hazard for other motorists by doing that. Some of the next steps would be to have Council's approval of the revised policy. I will continue to monitor the level of service compliance, the performance measures, and the public feedback. Continuously doing ongoing training of staff and the operators, and review and adjust the policy as required. We'll continue to develop a communications plan, which I would like to highlight right now as part of your package was a template for the website, which provides frequently asked question section for residents, provides a description of the policy, as well as a link for current winter weather conditions to other sites like Environment Canada. At this time, I will open the floor to any questions of Council.
Thanks very much, Mr. DeLeebeeck, and I believe there will be a few questions. Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Kevin, thank you very much for this. Appreciate that you and others in the Public Works Department have done a tremendous amount of work preparing this policy, and you touched on a few things that I'll give you an opportunity to reinforce because I think they're important. One of the things that you pointed out was that last year the communication wasn't as effective as it might have been, and we're hoping to improve that this year. But one of the things that we did promise last year, particularly around sidewalks, because there were a lot of concerns raised by people, that we would listen to those complaints and review them. And you didn't point it out here, but you did track every complaint that was addressed to you.
In a spreadsheet.
And in a big spreadsheet. And all of that was considered when you developed this new policy. So I appreciate that was a lot of work. One thing that you mentioned and has been mentioned before and was certainly mentioned in the public meeting that was held a week ago here This doesn't represent a budget reduction, doesn't represent a staff reduction, doesn't represent an equipment reduction. It's an attempt to make the process more efficient,
That's correct.
to make the best use of the resources. And I think it's important that we underline that. One of the comments we heard quite often, and we heard at the public meeting, was that the sidewalk plow, especially with curb face sidewalks, the sidewalk plow would clear the sidewalk, and then the plow would come by shortly after and fill the sidewalk in again. In an ideal world, that would never happen. I think you've promised to make best efforts to try to coordinate that better so that it won't happen. But we have to recognize that if it starts to snow and it keeps snowing and keeps snowing, our staff are tasked and challenged just to keep ahead of it on the primary routes, the hills and the major routes. And you mentioned something that I hear a lot. Our staff take a great deal of pride in the work they do and in keeping the roads clear and safe for people. And I think that we can't recognize that enough. You mentioned that there's a good relationship with emergency services. One of the concerns we heard last winter, and that was raised again to some extent at the public meeting, was what if somebody has a heart attack, if somebody needs ambulance, that the fire trucks need to get through. And this is something that hasn't changed but needs to be reinforced. There's open communication between public works staff and emergency services if there's a need for snow clearing equipment to get emergency vehicles or emergency services into an area. There's a very rapid response for that, and that's in place. I think that needs to be. And the last thing I think that you mentioned we want to reinforce is that this policy will be reviewed on an ongoing basis. You're still open to hearing comments from the public as winter arrives, and it will be reviewed. And if we find there are areas where there are problems where the policy doesn't work, it will be revised as it goes forward. But I want to thank you and Brad McRoberts, the Director of Operations, and the others who work with you on this. You've done a great deal of work to get ready for this, and we certainly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out as well, there's a flyer that's been circulated. There's a QR code that will take you to, if you have a smartphone, take you to that new website that isn't quite live yet. We're just working out some bugs, but will be in the very near future.
Super. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have just a question on negligence, and I know you have in your policy that under Section 44 of the Municipal Act, a municipality is not liable for personal injury caused by snow or ice on a sidewalk, except in the case of gross negligence. I have two questions about this. One, what is gross negligence in your mind, your estimation? What is gross negligence?
Gross negligence would be turning your head, I would imagine. Knowing that there's a situation that's out there and not addressing it at all.
And not addressing it. What about the communities that don't do snow shoveling? How do they deal with gross negligence? I mean, there are communities in this province that don't shovel the snow, that ask their residents to keep the snow clear in front of their homes.
Council does have within its ability to enact a bylaw that would require the adjacent property owner to shovel snow from the sidewalk abutting their property. But that would create an enforcement, a different type of issue.
Exactly. I think you've done a great job on this, and I know that it's going to be difficult for some people. I mean, we'll always get the complaints, but on the other hand, I believe we're providing a pretty good service.
Councillor Boddy?
If we're getting the neighbors to shovel their own houses, it would be them that would have the gross negligence. If they didn't do it, it wouldn't be us. That would be
Thank you,
that would be the
Councillor.
difference. Mr. DeLeebeeck, you mentioned and put up a slide called I think timing of service, and you went over it kind of quickly, talking about 12-hour service, 18-hour service, and the different plans or different areas.
For the roadways or sidewalks?
I think it was well, either, but sidewalks was the last one. There you go. Priority within 12 hours. Last year there seemed to be a lot of confusion that we weren't going out on the road until after 12 hours after a storm. You're talking about starting off right now or as soon as you can, and having it cleared within 12 hours and cleared within 24 hours, correct?
After the completion of the storm event, our
Yeah.
city resources would be out there.
So it's not we're going to sit in our hands and wait for 12 hours. It's going to be we're going to have it done within 12 hours
After
of
the
that
storm has
time.
been
Just to
completed, yeah.
clarify that, because that was a big question last year that people thought that, I don't know what they thought, but we were out there and out there going hard. Good, thanks.
Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship, and thanks to Mr. DeLeebeeck. This has been a great presentation. I think the biggest change that needs to be highlighted and understood by council and the public, currently we have last year, how many kilometers of sidewalk did we clear?
98,
And how many are you proposing under this policy to clear?
82.
So that reduction, as Councillor, that change in the amount of sidewalks that are going to be serviced, as Councillor Twaddle has indicated, there is no budget reduction there. What we're doing is reallocating that same amount of money into higher priority areas. We heard last year about school zones and things like that. So I think that's important, but it's also important to remember we're not increasing the budget for sidewalks or for snow plowing either. That means the biggest change will be that roadways, many roadways that had both sidewalks cleared in the past will now only have one side of the road cleared, not the other.
In a residential area, correct.
That's where most of the change will come. That's probably where most of the questions will come. I've had my sidewalk plowed in front of my house for 50 years and it's not being done anymore. We're reallocating resources. We're not reducing the budget. We're reallocating resources to higher priority areas to keep them cleared faster. I suppose that would be a best way of saying it. But that's important because those are the calls we're going to get. Those are what people out watching need to understand. There have been changes. There will be lots of residential streets that had both sides done before that will now only have one. And people can go online to this to the city website and find out about their own street. Did you say that's up and running now, or?
Very shortly, it'll
Very
be up
shortly.
and running. In fact, there'll also be a map that will link us to Cosmos to provide you a visual of your road and sidewalk networks as well as a verbal description.
So some residential streets people will need to cross the road to go to a plowed sidewalk, whereas in the past, it's been right in front of their house. It is a change for some people, and as we all know, change is challenging, but as we move forward, we're trying to balance that with improving the service around school areas and keeping the budget in check.
Yes, and I would like to point out that my research has revealed we endeavor to maintain twice the amount of sidewalk per machine than our neighboring municipalities, so we are moving as efficiently as we can. And we do have about 50% of our sidewalks happen to be that curb face scenario, so that also presents another challenge for efficiency.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Purdon.
There are a couple of thoughts. First of all, this is such an extensive report, and there's just so much detail in it to read. Is it going to be posted for those people who really love just to read all the detail? Is the policy going to be on the website for people to have a look at?
There will be a link so that if any of those who
Okay.
choose to read
Yeah,
can
because
digest.
people, I think, some will be looking at it. It's I really think a very, very good report and very clear. But I agree with Councillor McManaman, a big part of the success of this is going to be managing the expectations of the public, and that repeating over and over and over again for the public. So I'm really happy to hear about the website. I'm really happy that you were able to use all the comments, and I'm sure some of them were probably difficult to hear over and over again, but to be able to use that in the design of this new approach. And I think the public, people like to be able to get around, and I think a lot of the critique on the sidewalk plowing is when people rely on public transit or on walking to get around. They see the cars all going by, they seem to be managing just fine, but if you're trying to walk, it's challenging. So I'm really happy to hear about the, really working harder and more efficiently to keep those major routes for walkers cleared. I think that's going to make a big difference. And finally, I just wondered when you have time, when I know that's at a premium, but maybe there are some suggestions you would have for those folks like me who live on the priority 4 or priority 5 types of streets, about how citizens can help out and make sure that, if there's seniors on their street, that they can get out and help out and just do a little bit of their own work together as a community to make sure people have access. There might be some suggestions what other communities are doing, or just even to put it out there for us to be acting like a community on our streets, and putting as much energy into helping one another out as complaining about what we don't have when we actually do have an awful lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Adair.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have a sidewalk in front of my house, but I still think it's important that people are able to get around in the winter using our sidewalks. So I really like the PowerPoint presentation tonight, and I'm wondering, I know the policy is going to be online, and I'm glad that Councillor Purdon asked about that, but I'm also wondering about that PowerPoint. I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't have the people out to the public meeting on this that we had hoped. I mean, there were a handful of people, and I think this is a very important issue, and there's been a lot of work done in this. It shows quite clearly that we've listened to what the people are saying, what they believe are the priorities within the budgetary restraints that we have, what kind of roads they want, and I'm kind of disappointed that more didn't come out to hear this. I think this is a very important message to get out before the snow falls, and I'm glad that there's a recognition that the communications last year really was the issue. It wasn't the policy, it was the communication thereof. We were kind of following in along behind because we had those very severe snow events that happened. I'm just hoping that the PowerPoint presentation, and I wouldn't mind getting a hard copy of that or an email of that, because we don't have that with our package. It really kind of pulls out the points that are in that multi-page actual policy that I'm sure we've all read through, but absolutely, it's nice to have the executive summary that's in. I just want to compliment you and your department on having done all this work in the committee as well. It's very good information. Now we have to figure out how to share that as much as possible. I mean, if people don't want to read it, there's not much we can do, but we need to get it out there.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Adair. In the meantime, while the website is being developed, Clerk's Department does an archival upload of the agenda every Tuesday morning with any items we haven't been able to get out at publishing time. So this PowerPoint will be on our website through our agenda as of tomorrow morning.
Great. I think, thank you for that. That's helpful for the members of the community as well as members of council. If they could receive a copy electronically as well, it would be helpful for all of us. Thank you. Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you. Just one more item around sidewalk removal that I wanted to mention. Last year, the sidewalk snow removal priority and the road priorities were the same.
That's correct.
And that sometimes didn't make sense. So this year, the priority for doing the sidewalks is based on pedestrian traffic. The priority for doing the roads is based on vehicular traffic. Probably the best example last year would be 3rd Avenue East, the East Bayshore Road, north of the Bayshore to the water treatment plant. That was a higher priority road for snow removal, so it was also a higher priority sidewalk, even though very few pedestrians use that piece of road. 9th Avenue East, north of 20th Street, so the sidewalks leading to all of that higher density public housing, were linked to the priority for 9th Avenue East, north of 20th Street, which was a lower priority. So sidewalks where we had a lot of pedestrians weren't being plowed, and sidewalks where we didn't have a lot of pedestrians were being plowed. That change has been made this year, so we should see some improvements in those areas as well.
City Manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would also like to congratulate my staff on this. I think you did a great job. You listened to the community. You listened to the people who had questions last year. You listened to council committees and the members of the public now. It is critical that all the people in this room take ownership of this policy, and that you understand it, and that you support it, and that you respond in a very thoughtful manner when people start to phone. I would also like to say that the City of Owen Sound has one of the most aggressive, comprehensive policies for clearing of snow anywhere I've ever been in Ontario. No one else in this province, to my knowledge, does a better job of sidewalk snow clearing than the City of Owen Sound. So while you may never please all of the people all of the time, you have put very significant resources into this. You now have a very thoughtful, comprehensive policy on how to do it. And I would just encourage everyone here to continue to say that, and to continue to point out that it has been very thoughtfully done, and it is a significant allocation of resources to sidewalk clearing in this city.
Well said. Councillor Boddy.
I'm not going to promote her to councillor yet. Ms. Van Elfen really covered what I was going to say, and that our further to Councillor Purdon's comments, our minutes are online, as are our agendas and the reports after, for anyone wanting to see the 238 pages that we got to read before we came tonight. All the reports that we get are there for anyone that wants to look in more detail, and this one was a biggie with lots of detail, and it is interesting for anyone that's interested. It's there on the Owen Sound website, and I think you go to council, and I think you go to, what is it, agenda. And minutes, and it's all there.
And if there's difficulty navigating, call the clerk's office and they'll point you in they'll click you away into the right direction. Councillor Lemon.
Well, the one thing that really, really impresses me is this is very logical. It's a logical approach to a problem over which we have no control. The kind of winter we're going to get is not decided by anybody on this planet. It just happens, and I want to congratulate them, but I also remind people we live in the snow belt. And you always have to remember that, because I can remember quite a few years ago when we got that huge dump. I think it was 40 inches or something. And it also has to be realistic, because if you get a huge, huge snowfall, we have to do the priorities for healthcare, ambulance, fire, police. And I think this is a good plan. I think it's a logical plan. And I think it's important that there's been public input, because it is the public that walks on the streets. And this makes sense in terms of priorities. And yes, there will be complaints, but that's the nature of the beast. But it's never going to be 100% perfect, but this is a lot better than it used to be years ago, when I don't think there was any policy when I was first on council. It just plow the streets, plow the sidewalks, and now we're looking at it in a more common sense approach, which works better for more people more often. And I think that's all you can hope to achieve, and I think this should achieve it.
Would you like to move the recommendation, Councillor?
I would move the recommendation.
Actually, I have an additional consideration for council in my report.
Oh, you're out on a limb now.
I know. I forgot to include the rescinding of an existing policy that speaks to the exemptions of sidewalk maintenance as part of this, which is essentially a list of 3 pages listing from street to street or avenue to avenue of sidewalks that don't receive service that are captured within the criteria in the new policy. So Kristen has put up the revised recommendation for council's consideration.
Councillor Lemon?
Well, I was assuming at this point that when we pass the new one, the old one would become file 13, as it were, in the circular filing basket. But certainly that is consistent with the policy as expressed.
So you're moving that. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. And the recommendation in Mr. DeLeebeeck's report. Oh, that's, okay, thank you. Well, thank you very much, Mr. DeLeebeeck, and one thing's for certain, I just have never thought winter was very logical anyway, so we'll get through it, and we'll help each other out, and spring always comes. It really does.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And on the same note of walking, oh, yes.
I think at some point we need to bring forward the Finance Committee minutes so that
Yes.
other people may be able to also escape from our meeting.
Absolutely. I'm going
But
to go right to
maybe
the
sidewalks are good,
Yeah.
since we're talking.
Heritage Walking Tour is up next. You've sat patiently, and we do appreciate your flexibility on that. Thank you.
From sidewalk.
It worked out. Thank you.
Well, good evening, Your Worship, members of council. Thank you for having us tonight, be able to present this. This is kind of apropos, I guess, with the Heritage Award that the city just won. Our new historic walking tour, I'd like to say, is a joint effort with the Tourism Office, or Department of Economic Development and Tourism, and Community Services. So Sandra and I worked on this together. It's a new brochure, but when I say new, it's also a bit of a revision. Before, we had the historic walking tour guide that many of you might be familiar with. It was, I believe, 7 years ago, Sandy, since we've updated that. And also the Freedom Trail, the Black History Freedom Trail. So what we've done is we've taken both of these that have long been sort of out of print, so to speak, and merged them together to create a brand new walking tour here. This also includes an architectural guide to some of the common buildings that you'll see in downtown Owen Sound, and updated photos of many sites. There's 79 historic sites in all. So again, speaking to our heritage here, there's a lot that we had to work with. We thought of cutting it down, and we said, no, we want to include as many as possible. It was back and forth with that. We've also included designated heritage buildings, historic plaques, and the Black History points of interest. It is available in print. We do also have it on the website as a PDF, and soon we are also planning to have an MP3 version of the tour as well, that people will be able to walk and listen to it while they're walking through the city.
We have basically 4 tours on the brochure. It's very large, and we did have this discussion about, was it too large? But we also felt that it's the kind of brochure that you could fold up and read just one panel at a time and walk around the city with it. So we have 4 tours. The downtown tour has such notable sites on it as the old post office, the Selden House, which is known as the Coach Inn today, the McKay Brothers store, and the Women's Christian Temperance Union, which most recently was the Christian Science Society. It is now the Tone Yoga Studio. And we also have the anywhere. The Mill Dam Tour, which has such sites on it as Buchan Manor, the Mill Dam, Harrison Park, and the Greenwood Cemetery. The East Side Tour has sites such as the CPR Station, Beth Ezekiel Synagogue, the Salvation Corners intersection with its 4 limestone churches, and the Butchert Estate. And the West Side Tour has sites such as the BME Church, Central West Side United Church, the Billy Bishop Home, and the U.S. Consulate.
And in the spring, if people are interested in the idea, we were thinking we might be able to even offer a historic walking tour, a small tour, in conjunction with Doors Open. So you can look forward to that when the snow is cleared, when there isn't any more danger of snow. And if anybody wants copies of these, right now they're being distributed at the library, at City Hall, at the tourism office, pretty much anywhere where we have other tourism brochures, also in the brochure racks around town. But if any of you want your own supply to give out, or there's a place of business or anything that's interested in them, please contact either Sandra Parks or myself.
Terrific. Thank you so much. This is really neat. I have to say, we have to all go on one of these ourselves. And oftentimes when we live here, we don't take advantage of this sort of walking tour. And it really is quite fascinating if you can take an afternoon and stroll along. And even if you can't stroll along, if you look at the brochure and read the little bits of history that you've provided for everyone, it's really quite fascinating. Thank you so much for your work on this, and it really does, it looks great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Adair. Did you want to talk about that?
Well, just for a second, if I may.
Of course you may.
This is the reason we win awards.
This is exactly
the reason. I love a little bit here explaining why we can't find anything in Owen Sound, because it's either on the west side of the river or the east side, the numbers even on one side and odd on the other. People from out of town seem to have a very difficult time figuring that out. So I really like that. This is a great format. I think it's not too large. If it was bigger than this, it would be too large. The coloring, this is a very, very nice piece, and I know that it's going to be picked up. However many we think we need, we're probably going to need more. This is a great piece, and I agree with you. We should probably all go out on a tour. They say that people who live in New York City never go to the Statue of Liberty, and I think that's very much like us. We live here, we see these things all the time, and we just take so much for granted, and yet we have all these magnificent things right here at home, and I think we need to appreciate them a little bit more.
The MP3 feature as well is terrific for those that are more techie, and it certainly is an avenue that we will walk down. Councillor Chamberlain.
Well, yes, I just want to add my congratulations too. This is wonderful. And we had a presentation at the DIA meeting by the Economic Development Officer, Steve Furness, the other night. He said this was a very hot item when he was at the Zoomer show and that they flew off. And so I hope you have made lots of them, because it's wonderful that they're being distributed, not just in Owen Sound.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We're going to the Zoomer show this weekend, so we'll see if they're equally interested as the Zoomers.
Zooming and booming. Okay. Any other members of council would like to speak to this great new historic walking tour brochure? Again, thank you so much. It really does look great. Thank you. We are Councillor Adair is interested in bringing forward.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's the issue, it's actually a specific issue out of finance, and that is item 7C in regards to the library elevator. I realize that some councillors don't have this in front of them, which is kind of awkward. I am reluctant to leave it for 2 weeks because of the time constraint. if we don't move on this, at some point, an inspector is going to close the elevator at the library, and I think we need to deal with it tonight.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure how to proceed at this point without...
Maybe we could ask for a brief overview from the chief librarian.
The minutes are on the computer.
People have them? All right.
Can't get mine to open.
Under Linda McDonald sent them out as an additional item.
All right, well then I will proceed with...
We have the minutes are in front of us.
Okay.
From the last finance committee.
All right, then I'll proceed. The item 7C...
You can sit tight, Ms. Weir.
is a discussion that we had at Finance, and the crux is basically allocating sorry, I'm just getting my thoughts together. The resolution is to have us allocate funds in the 2014 budget for $160,905 from the city to move forward. However, we need to move forward now before the library elevator is closed by the inspector. So I would move that we allocate those dollars now, that we pre-approve the spending of 2014 capital budget in the amount of $160,905 for the library elevator modernization. So it's a slight change from what is in the minutes. The minutes are asking that during budget deliberations that money be allocated, but we really need to show the provincial inspectors that we are moving ahead with this and that the money has been allocated. And so my motion is that I realize that I'm going to take some flack for asking for pre-budget approval, but that is what I am doing, Your Worship. I am asking for pre-budget approval.
Your motion is on the floor. Councillor Wright and then Councillor Lemon.
Thank you very much. We had quite a discussion about this at Finance, and Ms. Weir was at the Finance Committee meeting and explained the situation to us. We do have a serious problem with the elevator. In fact, she brought a bag of special effects to show us. It was passed around, and it showed how bad it's all in the pit of the elevator. There's moisture getting in there, and it requires a lot of work. The overall cost is $260,000, but they're going to take $100,000 out of the library reserve. If we don't do this, we will have to shut the library down because it won't be accessible if we don't repair the elevator. And it seems rather foolish to be putting Band-Aids on this when we're just going to have to go back at it again. So the thing is, let's close the library down for the little bit of time that it's going to take to put this in, and then it's done. So I'm hoping that this will go. It's something that has to happen, and the sooner the better.
Sure. Councillor Lemon.
Well, council usually doesn't like to approve things in advance, but in this case, it's fully justified in my mind. There's a risk to not doing this, and the risk is far greater because we're going to go ahead with it anyway, otherwise we don't have a library. And better to be proactive than reactive, and I think in this case, the elevator is 30 plus years old. I thought it was closer to 40, but anyway, it's an old elevator, and not a lot, regular maintenance has been done, but eventually you reach a point. And I certainly will support this 100%. The sooner we can get started on it, the better, because there's less danger of the library being closed for an extended period.
Further discussion to the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We will go back to our regular agenda. We're at item number 12B2. This is a report from the senior management from the city manager with regards to senior management team structure, the review and analysis. What is council's direction on this? Perhaps I'll ask the city manager if you could just walk council through some of the highlights of the report, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report, as you'll recall, council, was an in-camera report, so we've simply summarized what we could publicly here. We are forming a new directors team. That is the 4 people that are at the table here. And that will be the team that will discuss implementation of council direction and really be the team that works most directly with council. Our senior management team has been restructured somewhat and will meet on a bi-weekly basis. And once a month, we will have a larger city team that will include the senior management team, the director of the art gallery, the CAO of the library, and the police chief, who I contacted and has agreed that he will join us for that meeting as well. So it's a really good opportunity for us at a senior staff level to deal with citywide issues on a monthly basis. And I think probably the first time we've done that. We are going to form corporate teams to make up representation on major projects, and I can tell you we've got the draft in place for the sewage treatment plant expansion corporate team. I'm going to be chairing that one in large part because that's our most significant project that we're going to have in the city in the foreseeable future, and working on a number of others. And as indicated in the report, we are going to equalize the salary rates amongst directors. Mr. Dobby, unfortunately, got ill last week. We'd hoped to meet with him last Friday. We had to cancel that meeting, but I was talking to him today, and we're going to start the exercise of looking at the operations department with him starting next week. So we're going to work on that as quickly as possible. It was unfortunate, but unfortunately people get ill. So I think it's all good news. I think it's a very positive step forward. So I would ask for council's support in approving this report.
Thank you. Councillor Purdon.
I'd be really pleased to move acceptance of the report and approval of what was discussed in camera and the recommendations that you've outlined. I think this is a significant step for our staff, and I think it's going to really serve the goals of the city very, very well. I'm very pleased to see it, and I'm glad that the consultant was able to work with staff to pull this all together. It's very promising.
Councillor Chamberlain. Okay. Any other speakers? Councillor Boddy.
This may be a dumb question in a sense, but as you've set out, to Ms. Corsi, as you've set out these different teams, by us approving this tonight, that doesn't lock in your teams, that you can't vary them down the road as you want to, I hope.
No, not in my opinion at all.
Okay, good. Thank you. I like it. It looks good.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. We have a report from the city clerk with regards to the museum-related request for proposal, the legal opinion. This legal opinion was provided to council and was tabled until tonight so that all members of council would benefit from the information. What's council's direction on this? Councillor Wright.
Motion to receive.
Motion to receive, moved by Councillor Wright. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report from the purchasing agent with regards to T1302, a new 2014 model, 1-ton dump truck, as opposed to a Model 1 dump truck. That's right. We've moved far beyond the Model 1s.
Yeah, they were about 99 cents.
I wish these ones were. Councillor Twaddle.
Well, thank you, Worship. Just a question. The bid amounts were $7 apart. The difference was the trade-in value, but I was under the impression that we'd actually stopped trading in our vehicles and have been sending them to auction, so I'm wondering if this is a change from what we had been doing.
Through you, Your Worship, the decision to do a trade-in in this case was related to the type of vehicle we're trading in. It's a truck and chassis without a box, and given the age of the vehicle, in consultation with the mechanic, our purchasing agent felt the trade-in would be a better value for the city.
Thank you, appreciate that. I'll move the recommendation then that we award the tender.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. We have a report from the purchasing agent with regards to extending contract T1016 street light maintenance. Councillor Purdon.
I would move the recommendation to extend the contract with Ken John's Power Line. I understand this is an interim measure.
Okay, further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Report from the Director of Community Services with regards to the police telecommunication tower. And this is a piece of correspondence as well from the Owen Sound Police Services Board Chair. This is a telecommunications tower that has received 0 opposition. Councillor Body.
I can move that. As we recall from a year or so ago, the police are putting up a new tower up in the area of 20th Street, I guess it would be. They need to send their next piece of information to Industry Canada to have it approved, and we're just confirming that we've received no complaints, so I'll move that.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Twaddle.
I just have a technical question, and I'm assuming has been addressed, but there are other communication towers in that area. Is there potential for these towers to interfere with each other? Maybe there's nobody here who can answer that question, but I'm assuming that if there was, the other towers might have raised the issue.
Industry Canada, by virtue of them approving this, have indicated that in their opinion there won't be interference.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report from the environmental superintendent, and this is a change of name for lease agreements for the solar installations. Councillor Adair.
Move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have a report from the environmental superintendent, and this was with regards to the former PPG site, and this is for solar ground mount request for solar panels.
Not this one. That's the next one.
Councillor Wright.
Are we talking about the solar panels on the?
We're on 12B10.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, 12B9. I skipped over one, you're right. Sorry, we're backing up. We're at 12B9,
No.
and this is confirmation of council support for solar installations. Councillor Purdon.
I'd move the recommendation authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign a OPA resolution for the applicants. There's a whole list of applicants here for solar installation, and we've supported this in the past.
Okay. Councillor Lemon was... Okay, thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Now we have a report from the environmental superintendent with regards to PPG solar ground mount request. Councillor Wright.
I just have a question on this, that, if I may, through you to the treasurer, I believe. When they put that up, that increases the taxes on that property?
It may marginally. It would be up to MPAC to assess
MPAC.
the increased value of that property, and exactly how they would gauge that. I really wouldn't at this time have any real idea how they would gauge it, whether it be on the income approach or on the construction value. So yes,
Well-
it should, but I don't know how much.
Well, it just seemed to me that since they're going to use this, maybe they'll be using the building, and by using the building for something, it can't be considered vacant land again, just, so.
I'd hesitate to say the building still wouldn't be considered vacant, but again, MPAC will certainly be looking at it.
I'll move the recommendation.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have two sets of boards and committees for approval. And thank you, Councillor Twaddle, the balance of the Finance Committee minutes as well. Councillor Adair.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd move the Accessibility Advisory Committee minutes, the OAC minutes, and the balance of the Finance Committee minutes.
Thank you. Discussion to any of the items within those minutes? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have one set of in-camera City Council minutes for approval. I have a mover. Moved by Councillor Purdon. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We are at other business, and I would invite Councillor Adair, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had 3 items. Hopefully I can get through them fairly quickly. One is just an idea that I've been kind of formulating, and it follows up on Councillor Boddy's request at budget about the fact that we don't promote Owen Sound as much as we should, and the fact that we have the city seems to be acquiring quite a few buildings and properties that we actually don't wish to be acquiring and want to get into public hands. And I'm wondering if, as part of the exercise to look at how we can market the city better, that we look at doing something like an open house. You know, in neighborhoods, you see 3 or 4 houses will be open on a Saturday or something. I'm thinking of doing that citywide with our properties that we're trying to sell, with buildings that we're trying to sell, and perhaps we bump it up a notch and look at some of the local developers having an open house at the same time. And we put some resources behind that to say on this weekend, whatever weekend that would be, it's a citywide open house. City properties, developers' properties, houses, whatever is going, and invite people to come and who are interested in purchasing property and houses to come and look around. Kind of like Doors Open, but in a more commercial way, and not just the city, but we get realtors, etc. involved. That would be something that I would like to see come forward as part of the overall plan for marketing the city better. I don't know if I need to put that in the form of a motion, but I can if need be.
It would, yes.
I will make that in the form of a motion.
Let's go to Councillor Boddy and then the city manager.
Why don't you do it the other way around, because we're both going to say the same thing, I think.
Well then, all right, city manager.
So council, as at least some of you will know, there has been an RFP put out for real estate services to promote to try and move our properties along. And in the absence of having the detail of that finalized, I would wonder if Councillor Adair would just allow us to take his information and see how that fits with that RFP process.
I could do that, or table it until such time as we get that report.
Okay, thank you.
Mine is next, or I'm not next, but it's the same.
You're all being very polite tonight. Okay, Councillor Lemon.
I was going to suggest on the basis of what the city manager suggested, that the table at such time as we have received and accepted the application for real estate services. But I don't want to preclude anybody else from commenting on it.
It's a good tabling motion. To the tabling motion? Okay, Councillor. Councillor Body.
I was going to encourage my friend Councillor Adair just to withdraw it because we're into these RFP things again that now we're going to start telling whoever we hire what to do and when to do it and how to do it. And I'm overstating it, obviously. It's a great idea, but I think it's better to go as a suggestion to them than to us to pass a motion saying this is what we require, because I think we're into those funny situations when we're hiring somebody to start giving them instructions on. We hope that they'll do something like that. I'd strongly suggest that through Economic Development Committee and through our Economic Development Director, but I think it's probably, in my thought, instead of just tabling it, I'd just rather see it just pulled for now, but
I'll go to the mover of the motion.
Thank you, Worship. I'm happy to withdraw my motion, given that the city manager has assured me that she will take this idea under advisement.
Thank you. You had two other items.
I did. My second one is, after last week's preliminary budget deliberation, I personally can't remember, and I've been here quite some time, a proposed tax increase at the level that we have proposed. And I'm wondering if the Finance Department could, at some time, perhaps during the budget deliberation, give us a breakdown of tax increases over the last decade. I think that's fairly quick information. I know the Chamber of Commerce put out something like that a few years ago. Again, I don't know if I need that in the form of a motion or if I can just hope that comes up.
Sure.
It gives us some context about where we're doing what we're doing.
Absolutely. And a third item? Oh, yes, Councillor Purdon.
Just want to comment on that because after our meeting, our budget meeting, there was some discussion about how other municipalities in our neighborhood or outlying areas calculate their percentage tax rate increase and use a different way of calculating that makes, I think what we've said is makes the city look like the rates are higher than in the outlying communities. Whether there be any way of kind of flagging that for the public, because I think it is very confusing when two different ways are being used to calculate tax increases.
If I could, Your Worship, certainly in my time here, we have always portrayed our budgetary increase the same way for certainly 12 years, and I know my predecessor did the same. Really what others do throughout the province, and with 440 municipalities, there are different ways that it's presented. We've always presented ours in the same fashion, and some years, certainly ours is very good in comparison to others, and other years, due to circumstances, it may not be as favorable, but we will continue to present it in that way, which is very forthright. But certainly we will do a complete presentation when the budget is final, exactly what the budgetary increase is. Certainly, as council is aware, comparing taxes is a difficult process, but we will certainly do our best to present it as in fair and transparent a manner as we can.
Okay.
Sorry, my third is, and I understand that I've been passed a note, is we're continuing to get the development proposals for Meaford and Georgian Bluffs on our agendas, and it was probably 6 months ago that we had asked that be handled in some different way, and I'm just wondering, in the fullness of time, when we might expect that different way to come forward.
Sure. We'll go to the Director of Community Services.
I think
for comment.
Councillor Lemon had asked me this question, and I had explained that given our focus in planning in terms of trying to support development applications and some board work we're doing, as well as some other initiatives that we hadn't got to that, we hope to do it through Planning Committee before the end of the year, so that's still our hope.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, I wanted to bring up, fits in with all those cultural awards and things we've been talking about. I'm on the cultural committee, and we have been reviewing how many nominations we have. We have till December 9th to make nominations for the Owen Sound Cultural Awards, which will be in February on the 16th. And they are in the areas of music, dance, art, theater, literary, and heritage. So with all of the special attention to our walking tours and our heritage things, I think maybe this is a good time to remind people that it would be nice to have some nominations in those areas. Thank you.
Look forward to that. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. The issue I wanted to bring up has been brought up, but my question is, when can we expect someone to, when will the RFP come back to council? Has anybody answered the RFP for the real estate? I'm just looking at all our properties and saying, jeepers, I wish we could move on some of them, so I'm just wondering where that sits right now. Thank you.
I believe the RFP will come forward to the next Economic Development Committee meeting. So it has closed. We have had.
Oh, it has closed?
It has closed. We've had submissions, so it's just a matter of compiling those, getting the report to the Economic Development Committee.
Mr. McRoberts.
I just wanted to let everybody know that we will have our second public consultation meeting for the Transit 3-Route System Review, and that will be on November 12th. It will be at the Bayshore Community Center between 2:30 and 5:30. Same place, same time, November 12th.
Thank you. Mr. Ritchie.
Mine was covered, Your Worship.
Okay. Ms. Coulter.
Mine was also covered.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. There is a bylaw this evening. It's bylaw number 2013-209. The purpose of the bylaw is to re-register an easement on property located at 1578 9th Avenue East. The resolution of council directing that bylaw come forward incorrectly identified the subject easement as being located on the easterly portion of the property. And that was my mistake in putting that report together. I apologize to council. For the purposes of clarity for the bylaw, I'm asking council to consider a resolution acknowledging that the subject easement is in fact located on the westerly 12-foot 6-inch portion of the property.
Thank you. Councillor Body.
Do I have a pecuniary interest here?
Duly noted. Yeah, you declare it. Councillor Twaddle.
So are you asking for a motion before we do the bylaw?
Yes, please.
Yes.
I'll move the motion.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Bylaws, please. Oh, gee, we are not. Yes, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. We're in a formal session. Resolution adopting proceedings in committee of the whole, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purdon, that the action taken in committee of the whole in considering public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business be hereby confirmed by this council.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Notices of motion, new business by resolution. Bylaws, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purdon, that bylaw numbers 2013-203 to 218 inclusive be hereby passed and enacted.
Thank you. Councillor Body.
Just to be clear, due to pecuniary interest, my job, I will not be voting on 18G, which is related to the matter that just was up a minute ago.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried, and we are now adjourned.